Welcome, dear friend, and a quiet word of thanks for choosing to rest a while with us, here in the soft unfolding of this gentle story. It is our deepest wish that the words that follow and the tranquil spaces that breathe between them will be as a soothing hand upon a weary brow, a gentle current to bear you softly towards the peaceful shores of deepest sleep, allowing the day's busy thoughts to melt away as mist does in the first kind touch of morning. Before you settle fully into the quiet comfort of your resting place, allowing your eyelids to grow heavy and the world outside to recede, if you find a measure of solace and gentle ease within these whispers, perhaps a simple tap to like this story, or indeed to subscribe to our little haven of calm, would be a most appreciated kindness. It helps others who may also be yearning for just such a peaceful interlude to find their gentle way to this quietude. And now, with a soft breath outwards, let us begin our journey. Chapter 1. Gathering the Blue Stillness. The air within the great Cobalt Cavern lay cool and utterly still against Lyra's skin, a silence so profound it felt like a physical presence, a gentle weight pressing softly from all sides. It was a familiar comfort, this immense quietude, the very breath of her home. She moved with a slow, practiced ease, her soft-soled slippers making no sound on the smooth, dark stone floor. Her path was illuminated not by a sun or torch, but by the soft, ethereal radiance spilling from countless veins of cobalt ore embedded within the curving walls. This light wasn't harsh or demanding. It pulsed with a gentle, rhythmic blue glow, bathing the vast chamber in shifting patterns of serene luminescence, making the darkness feel welcoming rather than empty. She navigated by the subtle variations in the blue light, heading towards a section where the cobalt seemed particularly vibrant, its glow washing the stone around it in deeper hues. Here, the silence felt even denser, thicker, as if pooling in the brighter light. Lyra paused, closing her eyes for a moment, simply feeling the immense calm radiating from the ore and the quiet. She extended her hands, palms open, fingers slightly curled, her movements slow and deliberate, like reaching into cool, still water. She could perceive them now, the reason for her journey into this specific alcove, the shimmering, almost invisible filaments of solidified quietude. They drifted softly in the faint, almost imperceptible air currents near the glowing cobalt, like threads spun from moonlight and deep peace. Gently, carefully, Lyra began to gather them. Her fingers brushed against the filaments, which felt exquisitely cool and smooth, like spun glass, but yielding, weightless. She drew them towards her, letting them coil loosely around her fingers and palms, their faint blue shimmer intensifying slightly as they collected. There was no sound in this gathering, only the sensation of coolness and an almost vibrational sense of peace emanating from the threads themselves. Each strand captured felt like holding a moment of perfect stillness. Slowly, she accumulated a soft, luminous bundle, lighter than down feathers, shimmering with captured blue light. It rested delicately in her cupped hands, radiating a gentle coolness that seeped into her skin, a familiar and welcome sensation. The process was unhurried, meditative. There was no need for haste in the Cobalt Caverns. Time here flowed like a slow, deep, underground stream, measured only by the gentle pulse of the ore and the patient work of her hands. She took a soft, slow breath, inhaling the clean, cool scent of mineral dust and damp earth, the unique fragrance of her sanctuary. Turning with the same unhurried grace, Lyra began her return journey through the soft blue twilight. The collected silence seemed to absorb even the faintest potential sounds around her, deepening the tranquility. She passed beneath arches carved by millennia of slow water drips, their surfaces smooth and cool to the imagined touch. The blue light played across the walls, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, like a slow, silent symphony of color and shadow, endlessly fascinating in its gentle variations. Her footsteps remained unheard, absorbed by the great stillness and the soft soles of her footwear. She reached her own quiet alcove, a smaller cavern branching off the main expanse, where the blue light was softer, more diffused. Here, nestled against one wall, stood her loom. It was crafted from smooth, dark wood, polished by years of gentle use, its surface seeming to drink in the surrounding cobalt glow. The space felt even quieter here, a focused tranquility. A thick, plush cushion woven from soft cave moss rested near the loom, inviting repose. The air held the faint, comforting scent of the moss, mingling with the cool minerality of the cavern. Lyra approached the loom, her sanctuary within a sanctuary. She carefully placed the shimmering bundle of gathered quietude into a large, shallow bowl carved from smooth, pale stone that sat beside the loom. The filaments settled, their blue light casting soft reflections onto the polished surface of the bowl. Here they would rest, acclimatizing to the specific stillness of her workspace before she began the delicate process of warping the loom. She sank onto the moss cushion, feeling its gentle give beneath her, and let out a slow, soft breath, allowing the profound peace of the cavern to wash over her, feeling the coolness of the stone floor beneath her feet, grounding her. The day's gathering was complete. Now there was only rest and the anticipation of creation. She sat for a long while, simply observing the gentle play of blue light across the smooth wood of her loom and the stone walls of her alcove. The silence was a comforting presence, a soft weight that encouraged her shoulders to relax, her breathing to deepen. Thoughts drifted slowly through her mind, like the filaments she had gathered, acknowledged, and then allowed to float away. There was only the present moment, the cool air, the soft light, the profound, encompassing peace. This was home. This was stillness made manifest. Chapter 2. Warping the Quietude. After a period of restful stillness, Lyra rose from her moss cushion, her movements fluid and unhurried. It was time to begin the next stage of her gentle craft. She approached the loom, its dark wood cool and smooth beneath her fingertips. It was a simple yet elegant structure, designed specifically for the unique material she worked with, its frame sturdy yet lightweight, seeming almost to float in the soft blue ambience of her alcove. The wood itself felt peaceful, as if it had absorbed the silence of the caverns over countless cycles of creation. With slow, deliberate care, she picked up the first filament of solidified quietude from the stone bowl. It shimmered faintly, cool, and almost weightless between her fingers. She brought it to the top beam of the loom, securing it carefully to a small, smooth notch. Then, drawing the filament down with exquisite gentleness, she attached it to the corresponding notch on the bottom beam. The thread hung taut, shimmering faintly in the cobalt light, a single strand of palpable peace stretched between the dark wood. It seemed impossibly fragile, yet held an inner resilience. She repeated the process, strand by strand, her hands moving with a quiet grace perfected over long cycles of solitary work. Each filament was drawn down, parallel to the last, secured with gentle precision. As she worked, the only sound was the faintest thrum, almost below the threshold of hearing, as each thread of silence was tensioned. It was less a noise and more a subtle vibration felt through the wooden frame, a quiet resonance quickly swallowed by the immense stillness of the surrounding cavern. The air remained thick with peace, undisturbed by her methodical actions. The growing curtain of vertical threads, the warp began to catch the blue light more consistently, creating a shimmering surface that seemed to ripple softly, though the air was still. It looked like captured twilight woven from coolness and calm. Lyra worked without haste, her focus entirely on the delicate task. Her breathing was slow and even, synchronized with the gentle rhythm of her movements. Attaching each thread was a small act of meditation, a connection between her, the loom, and the very essence of the cavern's tranquility. Beside the loom lay several smooth, polished bobbins, carved from the same dark wood as the loom itself. These were already wound with the weft threads. She would use yarn spun from the softest, palest gray moss that grew in the dampest, quietest parts of the caverns. This moss yarn was incredibly soft to the touch, with a texture like condensed mist, and it carried the faint, earthy scent of the deep caves. It provided a gentle contrast, both in color and texture, to the cool shimmer of the silence filaments. Lyra picked up one of the bobbins, feeling its familiar smoothness and weight in her palm. She checked the tension of the moss yarn, ensuring it was consistent. This thread would pass horizontally through the shimmering warp of silence, binding the vertical threads together, giving substance and form to the intangible quietude she had gathered. The combination of the cool, smooth silence and the soft, yielding moss created textiles that were not only visually serene, but also deeply comforting to the touch. She placed the bobbin into this shuttle, a boat-shaped piece of polished wood designed to glide smoothly between the warped threads. Its surface was worn smooth from countless passages, fitting perfectly into her hand. Holding it felt grounding, a connection to the long tradition of weaving, adapted here for this unique and silent art. The preparation was almost complete. The loom stood ready, strung with shimmering blue stillness, waiting for the gentle rhythm of weaving to commence. Lyra paused again, resting her hand on the cool wood of the loom's frame. She gazed at the warped threads, admiring their subtle beauty in the soft light. Each shimmering line represented a moment of gathered peace, now ready to be woven into something tangible, something that could hold and radiate that calm. The air in her alcove felt charged with gentle potential, the silence itself seeming to wait with quiet anticipation. She felt a sense of deep contentment, the quiet joy of preparing for creation. She took another slow, deep breath, feeling the coolness of the air fill her lungs, noticing the soft weight of her body settling onto the balls of her feet. Her shoulders felt relaxed, her hands steady. The profound quiet of the cavern wrapped around her like a protective embrace. The blue light pulsed softly on the walls, a steady, calming heartbeat in the deep stillness. Everything was in its place. Everything was peaceful. The loom waited, a silent promise of beauty and tranquility yet to be made manifest. Chapter 3. A visitor from the whispering reeds. A subtle disturbance rippled through the profound quiet of Lyra's alcove, not a loud noise, but a subtle shift in the texture of the silence. It was the soft, hesitant scuff of unfamiliar sandals on the smooth stone floor just outside her workspace. Visitors were rare in the deep Cobalt Caverns, and Lyra paused, her hand hovering over the loom, listening not with her ears, but with her whole being, feeling the faint vibration through the floor. The sound was gentle, respectful, carrying no urgency or alarm. A figure appeared at the edge of her alcove, silhouetted against the deeper blue light of the main cavern. It was a man, clad in simple, practical traveling clothes made of woven fibers, his posture indicating a slight weariness. He blinked slowly, his eyes adjusting to the soft, pervasive blue glow, looking around with an expression of quiet awe and perhaps a touch of disorientation. This was Kale, a gentle soul who had journeyed from his home near the whispering reeds, a place perpetually filled with the soft rustling and sighing breezes moving through tall, hollow marsh grasses. The constant, subtle noise, though gentle, had frayed his nerves over time, leaving him yearning for true, deep silence. Lyra offered a small, welcoming smile, a gesture that needed no words in the profound quiet. She inclined her head softly, indicating he was welcome to enter her space. Kale returned the smile tentatively and stepped fully into the alcove, his movements careful, as if afraid to disturb the palpable stillness. His gaze traveled over the glowing cobalt veins in the walls, the unique loom strung with shimmering threads, and finally rested on Lyra with open curiosity and profound relief. The sheer weight and depth of the quietude here was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It felt like stepping into a cool, calm pool after a long, hot journey. Without speaking, Lyra gestured towards the plush moss cushion near the loom. Kale gratefully lowered himself onto it, sighing softly as he sank into its yielding surface. The tension he hadn't even fully realized he was carrying in his shoulders began to ease almost immediately, melted by the immense peace of the space. He looked around again, his eyes wide, taking in the serene atmosphere, the way the blue light seemed to pulse gently in rhythm with an ancient, silent heartbeat. Lyra moved to a small stone niche where she kept dried herbs gathered from sheltered pockets within the caverns. She selected a few fragrant leaves, cave balm, and stillness wort known for their calming properties. Placing them in a small earthenware pot, she added water, heated gently by geothermal warmth deep within the rock. Soon, a thin wisp of fragrant steam curled upwards, carrying the soft, soothing scent of the herbs into the cool air. The aroma mingled pleasantly with the clean, mineral smell of the cavern. She poured the warm infusion into two simple, handleless ceramic mugs, their surfaces smooth and cool to the touch, glazed in a soft gray that complemented the blue light. She knelt gracefully and offered one mug to Kyle. He accepted it with both hands, murmuring a quiet sound of thanks, his voice barely disturbing the silence. The warmth radiated from the ceramic into his cool fingers, a comforting sensation that traveled up his arms, further relaxing him. He inhaled the gentle steam, the herbal scent grounding him. They sat in comfortable silence for a long while. No words were needed. The shared experience of the profound quiet, the soft blue light, and the warm, fragrant tea created a sense of peaceful companionship. Lyra watched Kale subtly, noticing the lines of weariness around his eyes soften, his posture becoming less guarded, more open. He sipped the tea slowly, his gaze drifting across the mesmerizing patterns of light on the cavern walls, occasionally glancing at the shimmering warp threads on the loom with gentle curiosity. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of peace, full of the steady, ancient pulse of the earth, full of the gentle energy radiating from the cobalt ore. Cale felt it settling over him like a cool, comforting blanket, smoothing away the rough edges of his fatigue, quieting the persistent inner restlessness born from the constant subtle sounds of his home. He felt his breathing deepen, slowing naturally to match the tranquil rhythm of the cavern. It felt like coming home to a part of himself he hadn't known was missing. Lyra simply held her own mug, feeling the warmth seep into her hands, content in the shared stillness. The presence of a visitor did not diminish the peace. Cale's quiet reverence and genuine need for solace seemed only to harmonize with the cavern's inherent tranquility. She felt a gentle sense of satisfaction in being able to offer this refuge, this tangible silence, to someone who sought it. The blue light continued its slow, silent dance on the walls, reflecting in their still mugs, weaving its spell of deep calm. Chapter 4. Weaving Patterns of Peace. After allowing Cale ample time to simply sit and absorb the deep quietude, Lyra eventually rose, placing her empty mug carefully aside. She returned to her loom, her movements as fluid and silent as before. Cale watched, his gaze soft and interested, the warm tea and the profound silence having worked their gentle magic, leaving him feeling centered and deeply relaxed. He felt no need to speak, content to simply observe the peaceful artistry about to unfold. Lyra picked up the shuttle, the smooth, dark wood, familiar and comforting in her hand. With practiced grace, she passed it between the shimmering warp threads of solidified quietude. The shuttle glided back and forth with an almost imperceptible whisper, the soft sound instantly absorbed by the surrounding stillness. As it passed, it left behind a single strand of the pale gray moss yarn, nestled snugly against the previous row. She gently pressed the new thread into place with the beater, a smooth bar of wood, the motion slow and rhythmic. Back and forth the shuttle traveled, a silent dance weaving substance into stillness. Lyra worked with quiet focus, her eyes on the growing expanse of textile. She wasn't merely weaving cloth. She was weaving patterns of peace, translating the serene essence of the Cobalt Caverns into tangible form. Her designs were inspired by the natural formations around her, the gentle, patient curve of a cavern wall, the intricate crystalline structures built by slow water drips over millennia, the subtle gradients and soft pulses of the cobalt light itself. Cale watched, mesmerized, the rhythmic, almost silent motion of the shuttle, the slow emergence of the pattern, the interplay of the shimmering blue warp and the soft gray weft. It was profoundly soothing. He felt the last vestiges of the tightness in his shoulders dissolve completely, replaced by a pleasant sensation of warmth and looseness spreading down his back. The deep quiet of the cavern seemed to seep into his very bones, smoothing away the inner static, the accumulated weariness from the constant subtle noises of the world outside. It felt like his mind was being gently rinsed with coolness and calm. Lyra paused in her weaving and turned slightly towards Cale, her expression gentle. Her voice, when she spoke, was a soft murmur, barely louder than a breath, yet perfectly clear in the immense stillness. "The threads of silence," she explained quietly, gesturing towards the shimmering warp, "hold the coolness and the deep calm of the caverns." She then indicated the soft gray moss yarn being woven through them. "The moss brings warmth and softness. Together, they create a fabric that remembers peace." Cale nodded slowly, understanding not just her words but the feeling behind them. He could almost sense the tranquility radiating from the woven piece on the loom, a gentle coolness combined with an imagined softness. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for being allowed to witness this unique and peaceful craft, for the respite offered in this extraordinary sanctuary. He sipped the last of his now lukewarm tea, the herbal taste still pleasant and calming on his tongue. Lyra returned her attention to the loom, her shuttle resuming its silent gliding journey. Back and forth, the pattern grew steadily, a tapestry of blues and grays reflecting the peaceful environment. Watching her work was like watching a form of meditation. Her focus was complete yet relaxed, her movements economical and filled with a quiet reverence for the materials. The soft blue light illuminated her face, highlighting her serene expression, her connection to her craft and her surroundings. Cale leaned his head back against the smooth cavern wall behind his cushion, feeling the cool stone against his skin. He closed his eyes, listening to the profound silence, punctuated only by the near inaudible whisper of the shuttle. He focused on the feeling of his own breath, slow and deep, rising and falling gently in his chest. He felt the gentle weight of his limbs resting, fully supported. A deep sense of ease settled over him, a profound relaxation unlike any he had felt before. The Cobalt Caverns and Lyra's quiet artistry were weaving their peace directly into his being. Chapter 5. A Gift of Woven Calm. The gentle rhythm of the shuttle continued for some time, weaving row upon row of quietude and moss. Lyra worked with unwavering focus, her hands moving with practiced ease, until finally the piece reached its intended size. It was a small, simple wall hanging, perhaps the length of her forearm. Its surface a beautiful interplay of shimmering blue silence threads and soft, matte gray moss yarn. The pattern depicted gentle, overlapping curves, reminiscent of the smooth contours of the cavern walls, bathed in the soft cobalt light. With careful precision, Lyra used a small, smooth blade made of sharpened obsidian to cut the warp threads, freeing the newly created textile from the loom. She held it gently in her hands, letting it drape softly. The fabric felt cool and smooth to the touch, yet possessed an underlying softness from the moss fibers. It seemed to emanate a palpable sense of the cavern's deep tranquility, a stillness made tangible, captured within the intricate weave. The blue threads shimmered subtly as she moved it, catching the ambient light. She turned towards Cale, who had opened his eyes and was watching her with a look of quiet appreciation. He had remained seated on the moss cushion, perfectly content in the peaceful atmosphere, feeling refreshed and centered in a way he hadn't thought possible. The constant hum of subtle anxiety that usually resided beneath the surface of his awareness had completely faded, replaced by a profound sense of inner stillness that mirrored the cavern around him. Lyra approached him slowly and knelt, holding out the small woven piece. She offered it not with words, but with a simple, open gesture, her eyes conveying warmth and understanding. Cale hesitated for only a moment before reaching out, As his fingers brushed against the surface of the textile, he felt a distinct sensation of gentle, calming coolness radiated into his hand, followed by a wave of deep peace that seemed to flow up his arm and settle in his chest. It was the essence of the cavern, captured and held within the fibers. His eyes widened slightly in gentle wonder. He looked from the beautiful woven square to Lyra, his expression filled with profound gratitude. He couldn't find words adequate to express the depth of the peace he felt or his thanks for this unexpected gift. Instead, he simply met her gaze, his eyes soft, and gave a slow, deliberate nod, a silent communication of his heartfelt appreciation. Lyra smiled gently in return, understanding completely. The shared silence felt warm and full of meaning. Cale carefully folded the small textile, handling it with reverence, and tucked it safely inside his traveling tunic close to his heart. He felt the gentle coolness even through the layers of fabric, a constant, subtle reminder of the peace he had found here. He rose slowly from the cushion, feeling lighter, more balanced than when he had arrived. The weariness had lifted, replaced by a quiet sense of renewal. He gave Lyra one last look of gratitude, a silent promise to cherish the gift and the memory of this place. Then, turning slowly, he made his way out of the alcove, his footsteps soft on the stone, moving back towards the entrance of the Cobalt Caverns and the world beyond. He carried with him not just the woven square, but a measure of the cavern's profound stillness within himself. Lyra watched him go until his figure disappeared into the deeper blue shadows of the main cavern. A gentle sense of satisfaction settled within her. Sharing the peace of her home, even in this small way, felt right. She turned back towards her alcove, her sanctuary. The loom stood waiting, its dark wood gleaming softly in the cobalt light. The stone bowl still held shimmering filaments of gathered silence, ready for the next creation. She sank back onto her moss cushion, feeling the familiar comfort of her quiet space envelop her once more. The profound silence settled around her, welcoming her back into its deep embrace. She closed her eyes, breathing slowly, feeling the steady, peaceful rhythm of the cavern, here in the heart of the blue stillness. Surrounded by the tools of her gentle craft, she was perfectly content. The work continued, the peace endured, woven into the very fabric of existence in the Cobalt Caverns.